Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're new here, hi, I'm Madison. I am somebody who shares about different spiritual topics such as energy healing, Akashic records, things like manifestation, connecting with your higher self. And today we're going to start with a little card pull. So I really felt called to draw from this deck specifically. This is the Sacred Rebels deck. And this is always the deck that I feel called to pull from whenever it's a time of needing to like stand out rather than blend in. So, first one, she feels, she knows. So, this card is all about you being in a situation where you know that there's a step you need to take or something that you need to act on. And this is that reminder that you know you need to do it. All you have to do is take the first step, and you don't have to see where it's going to lead to take that first step. Next card, be the hunter, not the hunted. So this card is all about really being the one to create your own reality. So this is this deck's version of the Magician card. So you can create your own reality, but if you don't, life will happen to you rather than through you, right? We have to be very intentional with creating a life for ourselves. Otherwise, we'll end up in somebody else's dream or narrative or extra in somebody else's story rather than the main character of our own. One more. Release the dark wound, let love live. I love this. Okay, so I've had a couple customers recently who all are in the process of being in new relationships, post bad relationships. And I personally have experienced this whenever you get out of a relationship where like things weren't going well, then you get into a relationship where things are going well. You're almost like, is this too good to be true? That sort of thing. And I had to realize that like that was a wound or an expectation that I had to let go of or part with in order to fully be present in my current relationship. So I hope that you guys enjoyed that message. Now we will get this is what the deck looks like if you guys wanted to see it. I am obsessed. Okay, now let's get into the message. Today we're talking about Lilith. So if you're new here, this is part of our goddess series. I'm doing a goddess series where you can learn about different goddesses, and I'm breaking down a little bit about the maybe misconceptions around those goddesses. And most of the goddesses I'm talking about are going to be goddesses that I have done some sort of spiritual circle around. So me and one of my friends, Veronica, we have a circle every month on the second Thursday. It's called Her Sacred Circle. And basically every month we cover a different goddess and we do something a little bit different. So I'm going to share some of that with you guys so you guys can kind of implement this Lilith lesson into your own lives. And there's sort of a journal prompt that we're going to have at the end that I really think will allow you to think a little bit more expansively about your future. Okay, so let's get into it. Lilith. Lilith is considered to be one of the darker goddesses, but let's talk about why. So, backstory, I was raised in the Southern Baptist Church, so before I started studying goddesses, did not know that Lilith existed. Lilith actually was the first woman, and so I personally was brought up in a belief system that there was Adam and Eve, and Eve was born from Adam's rib, therefore she was lesser than him, right? Plot twist, actually, Adam and Lilith were born to be equals. And as they were born to be equals, Adam eventually wanted Lilith to be submissive to him. And Lilith was like, no, we're supposed to be equals. And Adam didn't want that. So Lilith essentially like fled. And then a more submissive woman was created for Adam. And so Lilith, kind of did her own thing. And then there was Adam and Eve. And this was like, to me, right? Because one of the reasons that Lilith is a dark goddess is because the patriarchy has sort of demonized her because she was this woman that refused to submit, right? And it's interesting because if you look at the history of a lot of the goddesses, a lot of it is not super accurate. A lot of it is kind of folklore. And a lot of it has also been altered based on how some of these characters are depicted as it pertains to various religions, right? So it's so fascinating to see what actually goes on here. Okay, big focus of Lilith is sexual healing. So this is if you're working with Lilith or feel called to work with Lilith. A lot of the times, if you have like sexual trauma, sexual blockages, maybe body image issues, a lot of that are things that come up with Lilith where you're given opportunities to work through those things. And so for me, this looked like doing like a sacred sex spell jar. And that was something that I made and then have in my bedroom. And then it just is symbolic of working through really just feeling confident, being sexy, if that makes sense. Okay, so Lilith also has a solitude season that she's associated with. Solitude season is normally like your hermit mode, right? There's a reason you're being called to go inward, to spend more time alone at home, to spend more time, whatever, right? There's a reason. And that reason a lot of times is tied to you needing to really be a little bit more focused on maybe your learning or your healing or your mission or whatever, rather than being so consumed with the outside world. Other thing Lilith is big on is shadow self. So for me, so whenever we do her sacred circle and I work with the goddess, I like intentionally work with that goddess during like the time of preparing for the circle and all that, right? So I started working with Lilith and I started having all these dreams of basically suppressed memories of things that had happened to me or that I didn't want to happen to me because of maybe embarrassment when I was younger and older, right? Like everything from memories back to like elementary school to like recently and everything in between, right? And I was like, what is happening? And very clearly, what came through was like those were all my versions of shadow self, like all the versions of me that I was embarrassed of or thought weren't enough or whatever, right? And because I had been consciously suppressing that, all of those things were being cleared through my dreams. Crazy, right? But that was something I thought was really interesting. Another fun fact about Lilith is Lilith really works with Kundalini energy. And Kundalini energy is the like serpent like energy that's at the base of the spine that a lot of time is sort of activated whenever you go through a spiritual awakening, sometimes a Reiki attunement, sometimes just like a life experience. But Lilith is also very symbolic of spiritual transformation, and sometimes that comes through Kundalini. So, I want to tell you guys a little bit about the exercise we did in our Lilith circle and leave you guys with something to think about. So, whenever I was trying to figure out, like, what do we want to focus on in terms of like the main topic, what we came up with was who are you when you stop apologizing for existing? I'm gonna say it again. Who are you when you stop apologizing for existing? Because so often I think that we're afraid to acknowledge what we want to be or what we hope to be or those things because we're like, oh, what if somebody minimizes it or what if they don't see my dream? But like, who are you when you stop apologizing for existing? You don't need the approval of others when you're not worried about what so and so is going to think before you make a decision. Who are you? So I really encourage you guys to think about that, journal on it, to maybe ask your spirit guides for some guidance if that feels relevant. But I would love to have you guys follow along, be a part of the community. I do have a lot going on in the community, so I'll share some of that with you guys. I do offer one-on-one readings in person in Greensboro, North Carolina, or virtually from anywhere. The content's the same, whether we're in person or over Zoom. Some people just prefer to be in kind of the comfort of their own home, zooming me on the couch and kind of getting their reading that way. I also have an Akashic Records class that I do where I teach you how to access things like your soul purpose and your spirit guides. Then I do, of course, the Her Sacred Circle every second Tuesday, also in Greensboro. All this is linked in my bio in the show notes. And I also got like a pretty vivid download of doing a retreat this coming September, probably in Hilton Head Island. I don't know yet. It's very clear, like the download I got around this is it's very much like this beachy, like very specific beachy town, and I feel like the only thing that I've seen that resonates with it very specifically is Hilton Head. So that's where I think we're going and what I think we're doing in September. Once I have all the details booked, I will let you guys know, but a little sneak peek into what I've got going on. If you are anywhere and you would love to come on the retreat, would love to have you, would love to meet you. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week for the next episode. And as always, happy healing.